In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at our tropical concern that, as I predicted, has gone up in probability according to the National Hurricane Center, all the way up to a 60% chance of development. So now we have a better chance than not that we actually do see something come out of this. So we're going to be tracking that system. We do also have major low pressure systems, multiple, moving through the central states and into portions of the eastern states. These will also have pretty impactful cold fronts with them and some signs of colder air on the way for the central and eastern states, which I know a lot of you have been waiting for. So let's go ahead and dive into things and take a look at all of this. And first things first, we're looking at our spaghetti model guidance from the European model here. So this is the European ensemble model. Every single member is plotted here. And we see pretty much all of them move towards the sweet spot, is what I call it, between Cuba and Cuba, better yet, and the Yucatan Peninsula. But there's a major split right around that point. We have a pretty large group taking this one more towards Mexico, and then another almost equally sized group heading northward towards the U.S. Gulf Coast. So that is obviously a very major split there. Definitely going to have to see what this one ends up doing. We can see this either bring major impacts to the United States or not so much. And it's also worth mentioning that this would usually lean towards weaker storms. Typically, strong storms don't stick around Central America and actually go over land as well. But a stronger storm, if it ends up over open Gulf waters, so the U.S. solution would be a much stronger system, most likely. So some big discrepancies there. Here is the GFS model, which still disagrees and has us heading almost directly eastward with it for a minute, and then turning almost exactly the same way, though, heading towards the sweet spot here, and then potentially moving towards the U.S. coast. And there's only a couple showing this kind of southern suppressed look. So far, this model has been a whole lot better than the one that we just showed. So we do kind of put a little bit more stock into this one, but hardly more, because really any model could be correct. It doesn't really matter which one's been better or worse, because you never know when things are going to completely turn around, and then the European model's all of a sudden better and the GFS model doesn't know what it's talking about. So it's important to consider every single possibility. Regardless, we're going to be watching the Gulf Coast, especially this eastern Gulf Coast, so Louisiana through southern Florida, but still Texas. I would keep an eye on things, and even the coast of Mexico if you happen to be watching from there. That's definitely some key areas to watch, as well as the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba, where we could have a landfalling storm as well. Definitely all things to consider. So we'll look at the National Hurricane Center at the end, but let's just move into the upcoming pattern. And right now, as we speak, we actually have one of these stronger lows taking place across the upper Midwest. We have a dragging cold front underneath, a warm front well out ahead, and that is why it is so warm here in the eastern states today. That warm front is way to the north, and we see it drawing northward that very warm and humid air. So that's why it feels a little bit like late spring or very early fall here in this mid to late fall time frame. This is not going to last long. As everything kind of progresses eastward, we will see this cooler pattern kind of regain some structure over the east. Not necessarily the coldest in the world, but it will be a lot closer to normal. Meanwhile, we do have some snow showers and even rain showers taking place across the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, and that is something to definitely keep our eyes on there. Here's Friday on November 1st. I can't believe tomorrow marks November, but it does. Today is the final day of October, Halloween day, so happy Halloween to everybody. As we just take a look here, we see some snowfall, some rainfall taking place across the Pacific Northwest. Now we have a low coming on shore here, so that is kind of the cause for all of that activity. We do still have kind of this rising motion from the Gulf, and this is allowing for some showers, spotty showers, and isolated thunderstorms to take place throughout this south, central, and southeast corridor. Meanwhile, we have a low moving out of the northeast, so some showers are in place, even some snow showers, especially if you're in Canada there. That is the look for tomorrow on November 1st. Saturday, November 2nd, here's what we're taking a look at. A stronger low between British Columbia and Alberta there, bringing some snowfall and rainfall showers as far southward as California, Nevada, and Utah. But states like Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming could see some as well. And then these Canadian provinces also. Snowfall in the high elevations, rainfall in the low. That's kind of how it's going to go every time. We do see some low pressure action happening here around the Four Corner states, and this is causing an upswell of activity through the south central and really the plains states here. Thunderstorms are prevalent throughout these areas. Some areas, especially to the north, it might just be some showers up here. But definitely some more activities on the way, and we see this is going to kind of shape into something a lot more major over time. Here's Sunday on November 3rd. We see a 998 millibar low pressure center there in eastern Colorado, your jet stream dipping behind it and really, really rising up above it and to the east of it. This is a classic look. We have snowfall digging far south through the Rockies and also the Cascade Mountains as well. And then we have these thunderstorms and showers out to the east of that low pressure system. That is your overall setup here. Pretty intense look. And what we end up seeing happening is an interesting pattern. Monday the 4th here, we see this strong low has moved up into Wisconsin and Minnesota. But we are going to see this energy transfer to the south, and we're going to see it all kind of start over and happen again as we see this southern low over Texas eventually take over and move northward to where this one is. So it's going to kind of do a full cycle backwards, super confusing. But we have snowfall diving to the south here over the Four Corner states because of this low pressure. It's to the west of all of this. Jet stream again is something along these lines here. So again, a very sharp rising action throughout that ridge and very sharp troughing throughout that trough. It's a very cool pattern for those areas. And we have thunderstorms and showers really prevalent to the east of all of this low pressure. As we keep going, look at that transfer down. We now see the primary low is over Wisconsin, but it's that low that was over Texas here. And we end up with a lot more of a classic look here. Some warm front action happening somewhere in there, and then this dragging cold front once again. We end up with a cooler pattern here for a lot of the west once more, and then again, very sharp rising motion throughout that ridge, bringing warmth and humidity around the Tuesday, November 5th time frame. For Wednesday, November 6th here, what we see is that this cold front becomes a much lower precipitation one, and really it outpaces the cold. We can see the cold is way behind this cold front boundary, so it is definitely weakening. We do see some showers along it, but the cold is wanting to kind of sit tight over this pocket here. It's not really intruding with that cold front. Now, this is weird because we do actually see a lot of warm air really taking over for the West Coast. We have a solid positive P&A. Not only that, high pressure pattern. We see a couple of high pressure systems here throughout the West, but this cold just does not want to be able to intrude the East. We see a lot of this Gulf kind of ridge activity happening here, and that is not allowing for that cold to progress really much further than it already is. So very interesting pattern, a little bit against the grain and not as typical as we see oftentimes. Thursday the 7th, what we get is this trough kind of lifts off, especially as we have this stronger low here near Saskatchewan. So once again, we're left with kind of a little bit of a warm front, cooler pattern there along that one. This helps to kind of lift everything back up for the Midwest. Now, this, I believe, is your tropical system here, just to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula there on the 7th. And on Friday the 8th, finally we have some signs that cold air in the east. A very strong low, 977 near the Hudson Bay here, really aiding. And then also this huge amount of warmth in the west is going to allow for this cold to really move southward here over the eastern states. So we should watch this progress. Meanwhile, we have a tropical system there in the central regions of the Gulf of Mexico there. And what we end up with is this ridge that's now located over kind of the plains and Rockies here, and then a really sharply kind of descending trough here, especially in the northeast and mid-Atlantic. But this will bring cooler temperatures throughout the Great Lakes, northeast, mid-Atlantic, and even down into the Ohio Valley, maybe even a bit of the southeast here as we see that dippage occurring. We get one more day here, and this is for Sunday on the 10th, and it's a lot of the same cooler temperatures here for a lot of the East Coast. Some rising action just to the west of there, but the biggest peak of the ridge here is going to be over the north central US and then central Canada. We do have a little bit of lowering happening out here in western regions, so this could be spelling a warmer time once again for areas east of there. We'll have to track it and see what ends up happening. Here's the total precipitation, and no real surprises here. The northwest is well above average, and also this area that sees repetitive storminess here throughout these pockets is seeing a lot as well. Multiple inches throughout the next 10 days. And here is the anomalies. It's pretty clear what this pattern is shaping up to be. It's a lot of the central states here seeing well above average precipitation, especially Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas there. But it does extend into some of those neighboring states. That is where we could see 2 to 5 inches above average over just the next 10 days. So that spells multiple inches of rainfall over just the next 10 days. A whole lot, especially when considering we've been very, very dry prior to this point. We do see some drier areas here, like the southwest, pretty dry, and also the eastern seaboard still waiting on the rainfall really to move into these areas. It should happen over the next, I'd say, couple of weeks, but it's going to take some time. We're seeing things really trend in the right direction for the central states that should overall drag eastward over time. Total snowfall, we do see quite a bit of an increase here for the upper Midwest and the Northeast, where multiple inches could be expected over the next 10 days. Not only that, definitely not only that, we see the Cascades and Rockies throughout the Rocky Mountain Range. They're seeing feet of snowfall. We are talking 1, 2, 3, maybe even more feet of snowfall for these areas. The only real outlier here is the very dry area of the Sierra Nevada mountains, where we're seeing a whole lot less, maybe upwards of 6 to 10 inches in some very high peak elevations. Nothing compared to the multiple feet that we're expecting for the Cascades and Rockies there. As we move into the temperature pattern, we see warm is the trend. We get a bit of a cool down with this cold front, especially for the first, second, third here, especially if you're in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, but we do get another warm up. This is followed by, after the 7th, another more significant cooler pattern here. This is the 9th, 10th there. And again, this kind of northeast corridor is able to cool down a lot more substantially this time around as well. But it's nothing groundbreaking here. This is just a couple of days of pretty far below average temperatures for a smaller area. Definitely not enough, I think, to quench the thirst of all of you cold and snow lovers. So we're going to keep you up to date. I think we're waiting on more than just that. Here's the GFS model, gets us a little further through this. We get that first initial cooldown, warm up. We get a more significant cooldown on this model. So look at this. This is the 9th, 10th, 11th. So these models are aiming for cold in the east at times, but look at what we revert back to by the 16th. Very, very warm throughout the plains and upper Midwest here. Slightly warmer along the East Coast. And then cold temperatures still just sitting over the western states. So that is what we still revert back to by the midway point of the month. Definitely there's some interesting things happening here, but this again is a little disappointing for a lot of people. Here is the 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center. And not only do we have a 60% chance of development here now in the Southern Caribbean, we also have a 10% chance over the next 48 hours, so there is a slim chance of development very soon. Not only that, we have added a 10% chance of development nearby the Bahamas here, and also a 20% chance of development way to the north here in the middle of the Atlantic. So we have a couple areas of potential concern, and then this rising area of concern throughout the Southern Caribbean, where I think odds are pretty decent that we do see something come out of this. And again, it could pose a threat to the United States. We're going to keep you guys up to date with this one that we've been tracking, I think, over a week now. So really been a long time coming, but I think that this one does have a lot of potential, unfortunately. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.